Team Classy Fit, Team Core Fit YouTube channel. I have recently received quite a few messages on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube asking me to tell my story. So here I am today to tell my story. I did jot down just a few notes so that I don't forget any important parts. So if I look down, that's why. Anyway, I just want to share a little bit about my journey and how I came into the fitness world and kind of where I'm going with this, and just let you guys get to know me better. At the end of the video, if you want to ask me questions in the comment section below, feel free, or you can definitely email me as well. But as some of you may or may not know, I grew up in a super small town in Minnesota. And my passion back then was dance. I danced from when I was about 3 all the way through high school, and then danced my first year of college. During college, I developed anorexia and was admitted into an inpatient treatment center and had to drop out of college. So obviously treatment was a big letdown, a big disappointment for me, because I really wanted to finish college. But I think that, you know, my treatment and my recovery took me in a totally different direction, which today I'm so grateful for. So I got out of treatment and I went on and completed my degree. However, I completed it in environmental science and wellness, and then really discovered a true passion for the psychology behind eating disorders and the refeeding process and just the long-term effects of eating disorders. So I went on and got my master's degree in marriage and family therapy, and I really emphasized my studies in addictions, not just with anorexia and bulimia and undereating type disorders, but also with food addictions and overeating. I just felt a real calling to freeing women from the almost jail that food puts us in, and just the amount of pressure that food has over our lives, and the amount of power that it has over our physical and mental well-being. So around this time, I became pregnant with triplets via IVF. I could talk for hours about my struggles with infertility, but I'd like to save that for another video. So right after the birth of my kiddos, I needed a new goal. I really wanted to transform my body after babies into a competition body. So I began competing. I did my first competition and never really looked back. I made it all the way to the Olympia stage. I became a sponsored athlete and had many magazine publications and was truly passionate about health and wellness. So at this point, I kind of shifted directions, and I really wanted to help other women with competing. So I stopped competing myself and built my team of show prep men and women, as well as prepping my husband, and then also built my team of body transformation clients. So moving on to kind of the second part of this video, this is kind of where my digestive issues began. Throughout show prep, I used a lot of protein powders and pre-workouts and BCAA drinks and protein bars and a ton of vitamins all throughout my prep. I was experiencing sort of IBS type symptoms, along with swelling, constipation, pain in my abdomen, gas, bloating. It was to the point where I couldn't even put pants on. It was so painful, and my abdomen always hurt. I saw a host of GI doctors, and it was finally determined that I had celiac disease. I wasn't really devastated by this news because most of the foods that I really enjoyed were gluten-free already, but I started to be more conscious of the hidden gluten that is often found in ketchup and soy sauce and all the other little extras that you have throughout the day, as well as the gluten that's hidden in your protein powders. So the problem though is once I cut out the gluten, I wasn't really noticing a decline in my symptoms. I was still experiencing bloating. I still had a ton of pain. By the end of the day, it looked like I was 9 months pregnant. I wasn't really able to plan my day because I never knew what kind of day it was going to be. I had to really stick close to home because I had to be near a restroom, which was super embarrassing and really quite miserable. So while I was trying to figure out all the GI issues, I got married to the man of my dreams. And honestly, I was terrified for my wedding day because I felt like I might pop out of my dress from all the severe bloating. So after my wedding, I saw a few more GI doctors, and the one thing that frustrated me the most was they all said, make sure you get enough fiber, make sure you drink enough water, make sure you exercise, and make sure you eat right. I wanted to scream. Hello, I drank over a gallon of water a day. I ate super fibrous foods. My nutrition was on point, and I exercised daily. So I just started to question what's the problem. I started to do my own research. I started scouring through medical journals. I turned to the internet, which can sometimes be scary if you're researching. I was at one point just convinced that I was dying of some unknown GI disease that nobody had ever had. And then I stumbled upon a article about artificial sweeteners and their effect on the body, and how artificial sweeteners are super toxic to our bodies because we cannot break them down. So I further researched artificial sweeteners and their effect on the body, and there's been so many studies linked to artificial sweeteners and diseases of all sorts, to include Alzheimer's and heart disease. And I began to really scour through my cupboards and found that in all of my protein shakes, pre-workout drinks, BCAA drinks, hydration drinks, protein bars, protein chips, everything had artificial sweeteners in them. And I really started to question my knowledge. Hello, I went to school for health and wellness, and all along I thought that I was doing the healthy thing. I was a healthy body weight, I was a healthy body fat, I was in tip-top shape, but I felt like crap all the time. So I decided, done with the artificial everything. I'm cutting out everything that has all of the artificial sweeteners in them. So cutting out all the artificials sucked. I could not have anything. There was no pre-workout on the market. There was no protein powder on the market that I could find. And in all honesty, I don't know, it was harder for me to cut out the artificial sweeteners than it was for me to go gluten-free. I then found stevia, which, for those of you that don't know, stevia is an actual plant. It's an all-natural plant. And I did start to incorporate stevia drops into my diet, and again, cut out all the top 5 that I listed previously in terms of artificial sweeteners, and guess what? My symptoms started to dissipate. Not overnight, but slowly and steadily. I noticed that by the end of the day, I wasn't bloated, I wasn't exhausted, I didn't have stomach pain, I didn't have the big round, 9-month pregnant belly, and I felt a lot better. So it wasn't too long after all this started happening that I was approached for the second time by a client about a product called IsAgenix. When I was first approached, it was probably 2 years prior to this. I was approached by a client named Joey, and she wanted to sit down with me and talk to me about a product called IsAgenix. At that time, I was a sponsored athlete, I had a contract with another company, and I just didn't want anything to do with anything she said. So the second time around, I was approached by a client named Mont Hartman, and he started showing me some of the products, and the first thing that I looked for, of course, was the artificial sweeteners. Did it contain artificial sweeteners or not? And there were no artificial sweeteners. The second thing I noticed is that there was no soy in their protein powders, which I don't know if any of you have done a lot of research on soy, but for men especially, and women post and premenopausal, soy is definitely a no-no. Do a little more research on that because it's quite interesting. The third thing that I noticed was that the products were all gluten-free. So it's nice for those of us that have gluten sensitivity or have celiac. We can use those products, as well as some of their products were actually dairy free. And I know from working with lots of women that dairy can cause big issues for them as well. The fourth thing I noticed was that the protein was undenatured, meaning that the structure of the amino acids have not been altered during the making or the packaging or the shipping of the product. Most protein powders are not this way because it is simply too expensive to package and ship protein powder in its most natural form. But this protein powder was. So I kind of had to step back and say, okay, it's kind of meeting all of my criteria. So then, of course, I went on to look at their pre-workout drinks and their BCAA drinks and their hydration drinks. And the first thing, again, that I noticed was there were no artificial sweeteners. Everything was sweetened with stevia, which is a completely all-natural derivative of a plant. And then the second thing I noticed was the lack of caffeine, which is great. If you've done a lot of research on pre-workout drinks, they're linking a lot of the high caffeinated pre-workout drinks to heart disease in young men and women. And that was always a concern for me with my husband because he was a pre-workout addict. And we had had lots of friends in the bodybuilding world who had had heart attacks or had irregular heartbeats. And a lot of them were linked to excessive use of pre-workout drinks with high caffeine. So this brought me to my trial with IsAgenix products. I began using the pre-workout and the BCAAs. I began using a product called Hydrate. I switched all my current protein bars to the isoline bars and switched my protein chips to their whey chips, which I love. And I replaced all my 900,000 million vitamins, which I was spending way too much money on, for their one pack of complete essential AM and PM vitamins. And I did this all without really making it public, simply because I kind of want to try things myself first before I go out and say, I love this. So I can honestly say that I have been having regular bowel movements. I've had very little stomach distension or distress. I'm not bloated. By the end of the day, I don't look 9 months pregnant, which is a big bonus. And I've really liked it so far. I'm usually really skeptical about trying anything, just because I think there's so much on the market today and it's all just a big ploy to make more and more money. But I really can say that I'm happy I made the switch, and my health is the number one thing to me. And it's not about, for me, having a staged body year round. It's about being healthy and feeling comfortable in my own skin and being able to keep up with my kids. So I'm by no means trying to push this product, but I get thoroughly excited when I find something that actually works for me. And I'm just excited that I've been able to figure this problem out without having to go down the road of GI medications and surgeries and all of that kind of stuff. So if there's anything that you take from this video, it's not about me pushing a product. It's about me telling you about my journey. And it's about me telling you that before you just jump to everything that a physician maybe tells you, it's good to listen to your own body, know your own body, and try to find what works for you and try to find what cues and signals your body gives you on a daily basis to let you know whether or not you may or may not have a severe problem. I'm not saying that everybody has the same reaction to artificial sweeteners or to gluten or to soy or to dairy, but for me, I found that my body did, and I'm just happy and excited and passionate about health, and I'm happy to know that there's a product out there that I can use and that doesn't make me feel like crap. And if you are one of those people that's struggling with the same type of symptoms that I did, maybe it's time to make the change and see how your body responds. My next video, I'm probably going to walk you through the process of an IsAgenix cleanse. I've never done one. I've heard a lot about them. I've seen a lot on TV about them. I've seen a lot on Dr. Oz and these different health and wellness doctors about the cleanses and how successful people have been on them, and I've always wanted to do one. So I think that's going to be my next kind of experiment, if you will. So stay tuned for video number 2 as I walk you through an IsAgenix cleanse. Thank you so much for joining. If you have any questions for me or comments or concerns, please feel free to email me. I respond to all my emails, and I really look forward to hearing from you about whether you've used the product, haven't used the product, or interested in the product, have the same symptoms as I did, or are maybe going through something similar. I would love to hear from you, so please use the email below and send me an email so that I can be in touch with you about your personal fitness and wellness goals. Thanks again.